is Sally Reynolds from the Media and Learning Association, and we are one of the partners in this project. And so we're really looking forward to sharing with you over the next hour and a quarter the different modules that have been developed as part of SMILES that are now being piloted and tested out in schools and libraries in different parts of Europe. So about our session this afternoon, we're going to take an hour and a quarter. We're going to, each of our different partners are going to explain the different modules that have been created. We hope we'll have lots of opportunities for you to interact and discuss with us. I see we're only a small group at the moment, so that's great. We have an opportunity for you to switch on your mic and ask questions and be engaged the session this afternoon. I can tell you that we are recording the session this afternoon, so it will be available to you afterwards as a recording, and we'll also make the presentations that are being given available to you. And of course, you can also access the SMILES modules yourselves as well. So just if you don't mind, keep your camera on and your microphone off unless you're speaking, to make sure that we can all hear each other and see each other well. Feel free to adjust your name so that it says the name of the organization that you're coming from or the country. Use the chat, of course. Say hello, tell us where you're joining us from. And if you have any links or anything you'd like to share with us, of course, you can use that as well. And on the screen, you can see the agenda for the afternoon, so for the session. So we're going to start with Liedewij in a few moments, just introduce the project to us and tell us a bit more about that. And then we're going to look at the different modules which have been developed by Sound and Vision in the Netherlands, also by us here in the Media and Learning Association, and also by Goteo Platoniq in Spain. So I think that's all the information I need to share with you for the moment. So we're going to go straight over to Liedewij, who is going to share her screen with us. And she's going to introduce the project and tell you a little bit more about it. And we still will have people joining, of course, during the session, so we'll try and keep everybody up to date on the chat. Liedewij, over to you.
Yes, well, good afternoon. My name is Liedewij Lamers. I'm the project coordinator of SMILES and work for the KB National Library of the Netherlands. And well, I'm here to give you an overview of the project and its outputs. Well, it all started in 2020 when these 6 partners from Belgium, the Netherlands, and Spain decided to join forces as disinformation took flight due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, for example, in the Netherlands before the pandemic, disinformation wasn't such a big issue, but during the pandemic, it became more problematic. The plan of the partners was to explore together innovative ways to help young people fight disinformation and stimulate critical thinking. It was also decided to apply for Erasmus funding, which we ended up receiving. Okay, well, the first thing we had to do was what had to be done was to set up clear goals for the project. Well, here on one slide, the idea was to enhance media literacy while combating disinformation with a strong focus on digital media use and COVID-19. The latter focus did change over time. Well, the project went on in time also, and COVID-19 became less important in a disinformation landscape as the war in the Ukraine unfolded. So because of that, it was decided to, if we wanted to keep the material current, that it was important that trainers could adapt the material to the ever-changing disinformation flow. So the way we wanted to go about it was to develop and test new methods for media and information literacy to the results that we want a safer and more responsible use of digital technology and more awareness and hopefully also more trust in institutions, schools and libraries as information sources. So we had partners, we had a goal, but we also needed a name for the project. And well, SMILES, this is the full name. So it does encompass the core purpose of the project very well, but of course we needed something shorter and catchier for communication purposes and communication in general. So we chose the acronym SMILES. It's a bit creative, but it's a really good name, so I'm very happy with that. see, and well, we had partners, we had goals, and now we need a name and a setup also for the project. Well, this is the timeline. It's roughly divided in three parts. First, we started with research to lay the foundation for the development of the training program. And the main topics in the research was, of course, the impact of COVID-19 on disinformation, our main concern, and also to research and connect different educational approaches. The finding of this research was used in the next step, and it was to shape the training program. And the setup was to develop workshops on disinformation that could be given in schools and libraries alike, with our strong preference for them to team up and work jointly. And the methodology was and is still a train-the-trainer approach, in which we train the trainers with knowledge and skills and materials. So in their turn, they can give the workshop in schools or libraries to about 600 pupils from 8 till 12 to 15, spread over the 3 countries. And of course, in the meantime, we would of course measure the effectiveness of the workshops, so we can put this into a final report. Currently, we are in the middle. There are now pilots running in schools and libraries in our 3 countries. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay.
At the moment, Liedewij, nothing. No, everybody's just saying hello.
Okay, good. That's for the SMILES overview. Then we have the project outputs. Well, there are 3, as you already gathered. There's a baseline study followed by a training program and a report. As for the baseline study, it's done. It's published on our project website, smiles.platoniq.net. It was for the groundwork for the rest of the project, impact of COVID-19, inventarization of existing educational interventions, and of course, interview with experts. There are, for each country, is 1 report and a joint summary. And please read, it's very interesting, so please do. Then we have the training program. We are right now in developing this training program. It's a digital toolkit. You can access it also on our project website. It includes a manual for trainers and 5 modules, and all the modules are interconnected with each other. My colleagues will tell you more about each module, well, after me. And also we have preparing the evaluation report. We set out pre and post tests to measure the learning goals of trainers and students alike. And we're also gathering feedback from the trainers on the modules and on the workshops, so we might improve the modules for later publication as well. And then we have, of course, the final results. We don't have them yet. We're busy doing it, but we expect to publish them in April 2023. There will be events organized as well to present and discuss the results. And so keep an eye on our communications and don't miss it. Yeah, that was about my what I wanted to share about the project overview and outputs. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Liedewij. At the moment, no, just some comments about the fact that we're joining from various different places. Just for people who've joined us, because I see people are still joining us at the moment, welcome to the SMILES workshop this afternoon, the seminar. Liedewij has been giving an introduction to the project and the outcomes and where it came from. We'll share all these materials, of course, afterwards with everybody who's joined. We hope, as well as sharing these modules with you, which we're about to now, to go through the 5 different modules, we also have a chance to talk about the practicality practicalities of developing materials like this, because our team has certainly come across lots of challenges in terms of developing materials, but of course lots of opportunities as well in terms of sharing them. So I hope we'll have a chance to talk about that as the session goes through. Liedewij, maybe the one thing I would just ask you for the moment, and that is the materials are available in 3 languages, isn't that right?
Yes,
yeah,
correctly. Yeah,
okay.
Spanish, Dutch, and English. Yes.
And not in English. Okay. And obviously, if people are interested in taking them up and in using them, we can find ways of making available original language to you. I see there's a question, by the way, from Jan. Jan says, how will this project be used to scale the fight against disinformation? Sorry, and Catalan as well, too, as Claudia has pointed out to us as well. So we should include Catalan as well. But what about Jan's question? Jan says, how will this project basis be used to scale the fight against disinformation? How scalable do you think an approach like this is that has been taken by KB in their leadership of this project?
You mean by using other countries, by using the modules?
Scalable, I think, in terms of rollout, because this is available for all librarians to use, as I understand it, in the different countries, and also teachers. So, Jan, I think it's a case of they're standalone materials. So I think from all of our point of view, we feel they can be taken up and used on a wider scale. But we can come back to that a little bit later as well, too, in terms of how we manage that, if that's okay. Yeah. Okay, then thanks, Liedewij. Without any further ado, let us move on to the first people who are going to present our first modules, the first 3 modules from the package. And that is Anne Bothmer and Patricia van Rijswijk, and they're from the National Institute for Sound and Vision in the Netherlands. And they have been leading on these modules. So not sure who's starting. Is it Anne or is it Patricia? Patricia, okay, over to you. We see you. Yep, we see your slide. Lovely. We don't hear anything from your side yet, so can you switch your mic on for us and away you go. Still a problem, I'm afraid. Okay, I see some nodding. That's a good sign.
Yes, there we are.
Good. Where you go, Patricia.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yep, hear you fine.
My name is Patricia, and first of all, I'm so glad that we are all here. Brazil, the States, Bulgaria, all these countries, and it means a lot to me that we are all in this topic, and it gives me a lot of hope that we can join to fight against disinformation. I work for the Dutch Institute of Sound and Vision. I'm here with my colleague Em, and just a little story on what sound and vision is. We are an institute for media culture. We manage a diverse media collection that grows larger every day. And in addition to one of the largest audiovisual collections in Europe, you will also find other forms of media in our collection, such as written press, political prints, websites, social media, and all kinds of objects. And we also have a museum, and there will be a brand new museum in just a few weeks. We are rebuilding it, and I work for the educational department. And this is like, what is it like? We have an archive, we are a museum, we do a lot of research with our collection, and we have our educational department where we develop all kinds of content for schools. And of course, when you talk about media, we talk about media literacy, and all our workshops and trainings are about media literacy, but more specific about news literacy. And by that we mean that we think every person has a right to be news literate. So everybody has the knowledge you need to participate in a democracy. And everybody needs the knowledge to understand how opinions are formed and how public opinions are formed. And by that, media are such a great influence on how we act to each other, how we live our lives, how we connect with each other. And all our trainings and workshops for children to teachers and everybody working in the community field is about how is media involving the way we live together. We want students and children to learn the importance of free media in the context of the democracy. We want them to know how news is created, and we want them to recognize the factors that influence the reliability of news. We want them to learn how trustworthy media is made, and that they can recognize how not trustworthy media is made. So we think in themes like press and journalism, satire, freedom of press, disinformation, all kinds of subjects within this news literacy. And by that, we hope we can help people navigate through the media landscape, through the information landscape. And disinformation is one of the subjects we work on, and for that we are participating in the SMILES project, and we developed 3 lessons, and we'll tell you a bit more about the lessons. And we hope this will inspire you to have a broader look at the lessons, the 5 lessons we made together with our Belgian and Spanish partners. And it helps you to get in touch with students and help them a bit further in life and people. Oh. This project, of course, is about disinformation. And with our lessons, we used the methodology of the inoculation science, the inoculation theory. It's a pre-bunking theory. And the idea is that we try to make people resilient by offering them a vaccine to the virus of disinformation. So what we do is that we have them make their own campaigns and fake news items. And by making it, by using the same techniques as the real people, the real manipulators do, they will recognize them for the rest of their lives. But Anne will tell you a bit more about it now.
Yeah, I will do it now. Okay, so from this point of view, we as Sound and Vision created 3 lessons. In the context of SMILES, we call it building blocks. So we have building block A. It's about what is disinformation. And we think before understanding what disinformation is, it is really important to create an understanding of how news is being made and the importance of journalism for democracy, so that in that way students understand how disinformation can be harmful, and also they learn to make and distinguish reliable information from disinformation. So they create they develop a critical attitude towards media, analyze and compare media, and also have an understanding of the impact of disinformation on society. So this is the first one. Then we have building block C, and that is focused on the techniques that are being used. So how can we recognize those techniques? Think about polarization, emotion, discredit, impersonation. So we give a lot of examples how that is being done, but also the students are going to use them themselves by creating their own campaign. So that's very nice. And then at last, the building block D is focused on the spread of disinformation. So,
Anne, can I ask you, are you expecting that you are seeing a PowerPoint? Because we're not at the moment.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's weird.
And now?
Thank you very much. Now we see you fine. Yep. Thank you very much. Keep going.
Okay. So, okay, ECD, yeah. So building block D. It's about understanding that there are also strategies and campaigns built around disinformation, and that students start to understand that disinformation is part of a bigger plan. There are multiple ways to manipulate the audiences and to really plan the whole thing. And that's what they're also going to do in this lesson. So they're also creating their own strategy and campaign. And also that they are aware of the way that they participate in real life by, for example, not sharing information. So being active.
So these 3 lessons are built from, okay, what is disinformation? But first learn about how information is made and how journalism is made, because you need to understand that before you understand what disinformation is. Then we learn them which techniques are used to manipulate you. And those techniques we explain, and then they use those techniques themselves to have them to make them see how easy it is to have people manipulated. And then the last building block is about, you have all this content made with all the techniques, and now you can make your own disinformation campaign, because it's not only about a fake news article. Disinformation exists through multiple, to a large scale of content throughout months and years, where you with different accounts, lots of accounts from different countries, sometimes needed to have a large audience. And the highest goal is to have people unaware sharing your content. And that's what the last lesson is about, or the building block D is about. Make them aware that every time they share an article which they are not sure if it's true or not, every time they share it, they are part of the disinformation landscape. So that's what the building block D is about.
Yeah. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some QR codes, but it's not really. Is it working?
We can put them into, they're already into the chat already. Chloe's already put the modules A, C, and D.
Okay.
Are there in the chat. So can you give us a kind of an example of a typical exercise that students are doing in, let's say, one of them, like the first one, building block A? What is disinformation? How do you incorporate that actually in the workshop itself, Anne?
Yes, in the first building block, it's of course some theory and then some exercises.
Like?
A lot of a quiz, for example.
Yeah.
So they end with a quiz, and building block C and D are more about making own materials. So in building block B, we have worksheets, and students are going to make, for example, a meme where they want to achieve polarization, or they are going to make a fake article to post on Facebook. They're making fake profiles. So that is like a big campaign with different elements. And then in building block D, they are creating a timeline with all the materials, so the fake profile and the meme and the article, pictures.
Yeah, the fake accounts.
Yeah. And then they are going to think about, okay, how and what order am I going to spread all this information on what kind of platforms?
So we have this example. The case we use in these lessons is that there's going to be an amusement. So there will be an
amusement park.
Yeah, no, wait, that's now there will be elections because some people want an amusement park in your city, and you can go to vote pro or against the amusement park, but there are people trying to make you not vote. They try to make you being skeptical about the institutions, about the government. So they try to take you away from the election. And this is where this is the case. And now you are the evil one. You have to make sure that as not many people will go to vote. So what can you do? So which strategy are you going to use? You can make fake news about the amusement park, or will you use, so you make fake accounts where you can spread these articles, where you can spread the memes, and but don't throw it all online at the same time. You need 1 month or 2 years. So what is your strategy about to make people skeptical about the government?
Okay, Patricia, if I can just hold you there, could you stop sharing if you don't mind? And then we can maybe see everybody, because we'd like to get some questions in from the audience. And I see that Jan has already got a question for you. Jan, if you want to switch on your camera and microphone and ask the question yourself, you're more than welcome.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously generated for
Tell us who you are, first of all.
Sure. My name is Jan Olsen. I am the head of an NGO in Scandinavia called Alves, which is basically a network of people actively fighting misinformation and trolls on the internet. We take a slightly different approach. We simply go straight into the debate on all the public sites, and there's a coordination behind. But anyway, it is not for this forum. No. So my question was specifically with this thing. Okay, so you train the kids, you give them to see, okay, this could be misinformation or not, but on the spot, right there. When they have to choose to either share or not share this interesting article, because that's the problem. Yes, the real problem is right there, that they have to make this decision on the fly. Is this an interesting video? Is it lie or not? Have you given any thought to what kinds of tools you are going to give them?
So lesson B is about the techniques being used. So that's where we learn them that emotions will be used a lot. So that's where we help them recognize when the emotion is the trigger, and we help them recognize the polarization in texts, in video, in the us against them vibe, and then we teach them the impersonation technique. So is the person recognizable? Do you know who he is? And especially for the focus on emotion and polarization, it's really quick to learn, because so what we like to learn to them is that every time you feel anxious, angry, sad, you should be aware. And maybe that should be the moment where you just step back and say, okay, I might be manipulated here, so I won't share this. And so we have lots of examples where we exercise that with them.
So, but that's an exercise. Have you done anything to say, listen, you can go here and here and check your videos, or anything else? Because the real problem is there's so much information coming through the channel that even normal people go like, is this true or false?
So that's why we also in lesson A also help them recognize reliable information. It's not only about recognizing disinformation, but maybe now after this project, or I think we shouldn't forget that even more we should help them recognize reliable information. So, okay, there's disinformation. Let's start focus on journalism, free press, democracy. Why is it needed? And then make disinformation part of this news literacy, and not the whole. The target shouldn't be fighting disinformation. The target should be fight for free press, fight for reliable information.
I think what Jan is pushing to, and I think we're doing that in Smiles as well, is good tools, providing a couple of good tools. And we do have them. I can certainly think of in module B, indeed, where we have some tools in there that people can actually use, and young people can use.
But Patricia is actually, but I think Patricia is also onto something that actually sits in a field that I don't think most people have thought about, which is how do you create among the young and the older for that matter too, some form of self-awareness group where they can start, helping each other with this problem, because there are millions of people out there, and we can see that in Scandinavia. Yes, I mean, I'll give you a super short example. Yes, 2 years ago there was a small group set up for to talk about nuclear power. It's forbidden in Denmark.
Jan, I'm going to ask you to keep this real short for me, if you don't mind.
They moved from 600 people to 35,000 people in 2 years, and moved the politicians 18 points with the last election. Is that short enough?
That's pretty short, absolutely. But the
No,
point is made,
the-
I think. Well,
yeah.
thank you.
The point though with the groups is there's a series of these groups that start setting themselves up as an informal network where they help and support each other. Because Goebbels was right. If you say a lie enough, it becomes the truth. But the funny thing is, if you say the truth enough, it stays the truth.
Yeah, it's exactly as you say, but it's also, we should have people get really motivated to choose for the right information.
Yes.
Then we need to learn them what the right information is. I think it's a human right to be news literate. And of course, this information is part of this whole news literate landscape. So like to talk to you about this.
I think we have a bigger conversation coming on indeed. Jan, stay in contact with us.
Never mind that. I'm not going to monopolize this. It was just an observation. I think it's important when the kids leave the classroom that you give them something to continue to talk to each other about.
Exactly. We need to plant seeds, because we can't, these are 5 lessons, great lessons, but it's just a starter. Starting point.
I don't think you'll find anybody in this group who'll disagree with you. And I think we also feel really strongly about the fact that there's lots of business around at the moment about fact checking and stopping fake news. But actually, we're never going to stop it. We have to put in place the supply side or the demand side. We have to give people the skills themselves to be able to select what they're hearing. We can keep combating and we can keep fighting it, but unless we do this, and in education, that's really important. Anyway, that's me stealing my role as moderator, which I probably shouldn't be. And you desperately want to say, or Patricia, you desperately want to say something quick?
There's one comment in the Iglika. She said she interpreted Jan's question more on the side of ethics and responsibility, and I totally agree with you. It's more the ethics we shouldn't forget. It's not just okay, check. It's about the interest. It should be
inside. Yeah. Look, thanks very much, Patricia, but we wanted to move on to our next module, and that's going to be presented. Feel free to keep putting comments in, and this whole exercise is about networking and exchange. So if people want to make up contact with each other, Jan, if you'd like to reach out to anybody here, everybody more than welcome to put your contact details into the checklist or into the chat, and we'll share all this information as well afterwards. Also, if you've got good resources, materials that you can point us to, that's also really, really welcome. I think we'd all appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to introduce my colleague, which is very nice, Chloé. It's really nice to have Chloé speak next. She's going to introduce the second module in the SMILES battery of resources. Over to you, Chloé.
Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm glad to be here. So I'm going to share my screen with you quickly. I hope you can see it.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Yes, that's great. And so I'm Chloé Pété. I work for the Media and Learning Association. I won't be doing any introduction because I don't think we'll have time, and I think you all know us by now. I will be presenting Module B, titled, as introduced by my colleague Liedewij earlier, How to Detect and Resist Disinformation. And as you'll see, this module, so it's developed chronologically after Module A, what is disinformation? It's a more practical activity. Although all the modules require active participation from students, this one you'll see, because it's an online game, the students and the learners have to actually challenge, or let's say practice, their digital skills. So Jan, when you were talking about tool, this one is actually a tool because it's a game. So before showing you the game itself, I just wanted to quickly take you through our production process, because it might interest some people. So here you can see all the steps required to get to the final resource. 6 steps divided in 3 phases or stages that I will come back on those. I will come back on those in more detail in a few seconds. So the first one was the starting point. Basically, during IO1, which was the baseline study, we had different learning goals. So from these learning goals, we started our reflection, and we've decided to do a game format. Then we set up an external group, a sounding board, with who we could run IDs, ask for suggestion, and test validity and the quality of our module. Then we had our first drafts. So it's a really important step because we did all our research, examples of different games, similar games. We also designed the structure of the scenario. We selected the approach, like Patricia mentioned, pre-bunking, debunking, and so on. Then we designed the prototypes. We did 2 prototypes, one on PowerPoint and the second one on Genially. I will talk about it a bit later on. Then we did a piloting phase, the first one internally, so within our team, and a second one external, so with the sounding board. And then finally, the playable version with a game fully playable in English, ready to be localized for our partners and to be tested by teachers, librarians, and implemented in class with students. So the first phase, I would call it the incubation phase. I told you starting point, learning goals. We had 3 learning goals for this module B. The first one, can recognize fake news and distinguish it from reliable information. So you were talking about it, Patricia and Jan earlier. Can apply new research strategies to get out of their fixed search patterns. So filter bubble theory. Can use device and account setting to use social media in a safe and secure way and block fake news. Some from those 3 different learning goals, we thought about doing an online escape game. So for 2 reasons. The first one, it's because it's a hot topic in education at the moment, gaming, everybody knows it. Second one, we also worked on a similar project. It was about loneliness and adolescence. And one of the partners actually created an escape room, and we thought it was a really nice idea and it worked really well and students loved it. Regarding the sounding board, so us, Media and Learning, we are a European association. And so we thought it was essential for us to set a group of experts and experienced media literacy workers. First of all, based in Belgium and in Flanders. And second, with knowledge and field experience. So that was really, really important. With direct contacts with librarians, teachers, youth workers, teaching to 12 to 16 years old. So we work with Liedewij. I think a lot of you might have heard of them by now because we've been mentioning them in several of our online sessions. It's the Flemish Knowledge Center for Digital and Media Literacy, part of the Flemish government. And second, it's UCLL, which is the University of Applied Sciences of Leuven-Limburg. And we were specifically in contact with the teacher education program there, Teachers in Service. And with them, we did regular updates on module development, along with 3 short meetings on Zoom. So the next phase is the creation phase. I told you the first draft was really important, the third step, because we modeled the entire structure of the game. We look for similar tools. You find all the references in the digital toolkit on the Smiles website. There is a list of all the similar games we got inspired from. I will also share links later on. So yeah, structure, a common thread also, because you'll see that in the game there is different assignments. So it was really important to actually find a common thread with a storyline. Also tools, because how can we develop the game? Is it possible for us? I don't have any background in web developing. I'm not a game designer or anything like this. So we had to ask ourselves all of these questions. We are a small organization. Do we have the budget? Do we have the time? What can we use? And so on. The approach, once again, are we going to do pre-bunking or debunking? And finally, accessibility and adaptability, because we have to ask ourselves, is there computers in every class? Can the game be played individually, as a group? Will it be really easy to localize for our partners? Because we are not only doing translation, but rather localization, which means that it's not only Dutch to Spanish, but it's actually the Spanish context with fake news examples from Spain, fake news examples from Belgium, from Netherlands, etc. So that was the kind of question we ask ourselves. Then the 4th step, prototype, we did 2 prototypes I mentioned. So the first one on PowerPoint. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's quite long, the explanation, but I think it's just really important to understand what we did. Yeah, I really recommend for anyone who would like to do an escape game or an online game to try it out on PowerPoint. It's really easy. There is many things that can be done on PowerPoint, super easy to use and yeah, adaptable and so on. We created all the puzzles, the puzzle goals, the puzzle actions, and puzzle materials. Then the second prototype was with Genially, and Genially, it's a platform. I also quickly want to mention it because I think it's really, I'm not doing any publicity or anything, but when I started doing research about escape game, online gaming, and so on, I stumbled about on Genially, and especially there is a big community of teachers in France developing educational game through Genially. It's really easy. I believe it's a Spanish platform. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. And you can make interactive presentation, animated infographic, but also really games. Very easy to use. It works like a PowerPoint, and you can actually upload your PowerPoint prototype into Genially. It doesn't work that well all the time, but yeah, you get like a base. So it's perfect for someone who doesn't have any coding knowledge. For example, I don't. The platform is kind of limited, but you can add like extension or a bit of HTML code and so on to make it more usable, nicer, and so on. And also one really important thing for the project, it was really great because once you've developed your game, the platform make it immediately usable on any devices. So it can be played on smartphone, on tablets, on computer. So it's really great for us because then it solved the problem of if there is not enough computers in the class, then that can be used on their phone or yeah, tablets and so on. So the last phase was the testing phase. First with piloting, I told you, really important for us because to collect feedback, first of all, and spot bugs, because indeed, sometimes I miss them and you see that there is a bit of quirks, not everything is working, yeah, buttons not working, things like this. And we focused our piloting on two aspects, the content and usability. So content, it's really appropriate fake news examples, difficulties of the task, level of comprehension, text, and so on. And usability was really buttons, interaction, intuitivity, color schemes, things like this. Then we reached the final step, which is the playable version in English, ready to be localized by each partner, ready to be piloted by teachers and librarians and implemented in class. So once you've got your game, I had just to duplicate it and wait for localization and then rework each version. So the checking on daily news, if you want, you can try it. You just have to scan the little QR code and it will take you on the, with your phone. So actually the phone, it's not the best. Yeah, it's not that nice because it's quite small. I think, to me, in my opinion, I think the best use it's with tablets. It works really well. It's easy to interact with your finger. It works quite well. So the checking on daily news is the English title for the game. The scenario is that the editorial staff of this newspaper is recruiting a new journalist to write a special edition. And the student has to go through 4 different assignments to get hired and publish a special edition, which will be on climate change. So here on the screen, you can see the 4 different assignments, and those assignments, I kind of mirrored the learning goals, but I added a bit, I added few ones. So the first one, it's question the source about the types of misleading news and elements to consider when looking for reliable sources. The second one is question the content about the types of misleading charts and elements to consider when looking for reliable data visualization, sorry. The third one is question your interest about how personalized data work, online strategies to get out of fixed search patterns. The fourth one is question the images about the types of misleading images and elements to consider when looking at online news images. And the last one is question social media about the disinformation accounts on social media platform and methods to report them. So as you can see, this game, so there is a mix of theory and also practical activities, and it kind of sum up module A, C, D together. So yeah. So let's try it. I will give you a quick look at it. So I'm going to stop sharing and I will share the game. Can you see it?
Yes, we do. Thanks, Chloe.
That's great. So here we are. That's the first page of the game. You have the scenario on the side. You can you have linked to the different localization we've done. Up, you start the game. First of all, you have kind of like, how to play the different buttons and so on. We thought it would be useful. Ready. And so that's the main hedge, let's say, where the students will kind of come back. You have little notice pop-ups coming up to you to tell you the story, what to follow. You have a menu button here with the different assignments. And so let's try the first one. So the first one, recognize what's fake news and what's reliable sources news. Once again, little pop-up explaining you in detail what needs to be done in this assignment. And with this game, as you can see, the role of the teachers and the librarians or anyone who tries to implement those with students, learners, it's really, we try to reduce it as a minimum, which is only supervise, make sure that everyone is following, everyone is answering the question, there is a good understanding of what's going on, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So all the elements, all the buttons you see, you will see them appearing in every assignment. So for example, here you have a little resource button. So for this assignment, it's fact-checking website. You can click on them and it leads you to different fact-checking websites. Here we have the glossary. So with the team, we selected a couple of concepts we thought were important for the students to know. So there is a few pages up. Then here, the I, it's for information. You get a few things that should be done for this exercise. So for example, one first trick is to do a quick web search. Then you have to check the source. And of course, you have the 5W questions: who, what, where, when, why. So for this exercise, they have a little link. It leads to the article itself. And then they have to select here the correct answer. So what they think it is. Is it a fabricated conspiracy theory? It is the publication time and date are missing, and so on. So they click on it, and then they get feedback.
Oh, we were a bit short on time.
Yeah, so I'll make it short. So that's the first one. I'll quickly show you, for example, the second one. The second one, so it's about, visual data, charts, and so on. It's a different format. Once again, you have those little pop-ups. And here you have charts. All of them have something wrong. So it's either it doesn't start at 0. The data showed selected, things like this. So the student has to see what's going on wrong. It reads the little notice. It chooses the correct one. It drags it. It highlights a letter. And then with a letter, I realized that it's quite long to explain. Anyway, and he sees if he's correct or not. You'll have to give it a try to understand it. Yeah.
I was going to say that you can see how enthusiastic everybody is about their modules. So we really want to share them with you, but we're not going to take any more time specifically to talk about that one. But we can, of course, get questions. Maybe you can stop sharing.
Yes,
Chloe,
I will.
And yeah,
I just add the last thing. Sorry about that. I will stop sharing and I will. I just wanted to show you the feedback we got and the challenges. If I get to it. Yep, because indeed we got some feedback from librarians and teachers that there are still some flaws and things to be worked on. For example, too much text, maybe difficulty of some of the vocabulary, the interface might be a bit busy, the length of the game, go over 1 hour, things like this. So we are still working on it. It's still being piloted, and we'll rework on it after holidays, yeah, if possible. And then what are the challenges? Yeah, the platform is limited, so we cannot do what we would like to do. It's also quite hard to localize because it's not really templates. I have to do it myself, each element by elements. And also, yeah, do we have the time and resources to do all of that? So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super. Thanks for the comments. People are liking it in the chat, which is great. Yeah, we are presenting these materials to you in their still not finished form because we are still waiting for the feedback from the pilots, and there will be final versions available of everything at the end as well. But we thought it was interesting to share it with the community anyway, to get your feedback. And of course, one of the challenges is how do you create materials that can be transferred, that can be used by more than one community? How do you put in place the right tools? So these are the kind of things that we're all struggling with. Any questions for Chloe before we move on to our last module? Anyone got anything they'd like to ask? Feel free to put something into the chat, or of course switch on your mic if you'd like to with your camera as well and tell us who you are. Okay, nobody taking us on for that for the moment. Okay, then let's move on to our last presentation of a module, and I'm delighted to welcome Claudia Misteli from Goteo in Catalonia in Spain, and she's going to present the module E, more on the impact of disinformation. So Claudia, you have a presentation, I guess. There we are, lovely. If you go into full presentation mode, that'll be great. At the moment we see presentation, yeah, lovely. Claudia.
Okay, thank you, Sally, for the introduction. And well, it's a pleasure for me to be here today presenting you the building block E, and also to as Platoniq to being part of this great team that we are. So, well, this is the last module, so I will introduce it. First of all, a little bit about us. We are Platoniq. We are based in Barcelona in Spain, and we design digital participatory process and facilitate innovative participatory methodologies to help build more democratic and just societies and organizations, making use of open civic technologies. And so, just to make, like I am the last to present the modules, then I thought it will be like good to make like an overview of all what we have learned. So we went to module A, that is what is disinformation. Then we go to module B, that is how to spot and resist fake news. Then module B, techniques being used. Then module D, how is fake news being spread? And then our module, it is more about disinformation and society. So it's more like focus on more on a sociological and historical background. Okay, then the first thing that we thought is like, we ask ourselves a question, like in order to design and build this module. And this question is, what is the impact of disinformation emotionally and collectively? And when we ask ourselves these questions, then we ask, okay, how are we going, or which methodologies or which exercises can we design in order to answer to these and to integrate these concepts with students. So just to go a little bit back, also as Chloe did, our process, or like how that we came to where we did. We first of all did like a stage of investigation and resources. So we did a lot of interview to local experts, such as Collectic and Nereida Carrillo from Learn to Check, some institutions also here in local institutions here in Spain. We also went to check some resources in digital media education, like webinar toolkits, didactic guides, training courses, and we also check out some academic papers. And then we also had a testing plan that it was like we develop this building block and then we test it with close friends, with colleagues, and we also test it at schools. And after having some feedback and having some insights of the exercises, then we redesigned our building block, and it's what I'm going to present you right now. So building block E, the learning objectives of these building blocks are, the first one is to reflect and discuss the influence and impact of disinformation on society and one's personal situation as well. And the second learning objective is to summarize and critically think about fake news within a historical context and its connection to the present. So here I'm going to enter a little bit in detail about the content itself. Building block E has like it's divided in 2 activities, and to think about how fake news, to reflect about how fake news affect us as a society and also in a personal level. So the first activity is centered in creating a timeline of fake news and analyzing its impact. So we have in our toolkit, there are a lot of examples of historical fake news, like from the past, like very, very old ones, like the first one that we found one in the 19th century until. So we have a lot of examples of historical fake news throughout the history. And what we do is like it's an exercise that we have at the thermometer, and then students try to highlight the impact that this fake news could have on that time of the history. So there are many examples of the historical news. Then this was a moment to analyze and to think about that. And also we also have this same like structure of Canva, so that the own students could also create their own news, and they could also think in terms of impact about how could this affect them. So this is the first example, and the first the first activity, and the second activity, it's called the Disinformation City. And the second activity is centered in understanding the impact of fake news on today's society. So after creating a timeline, like we saw before, students will use this template of this Canva of a more current fake news and map their emotions, like their reactions and thoughts. Throughout this mapping activity, they will reflect on their own emotions and reactions to fake news. So there is this big Canva where there are like, it's a city, we call the city of disinformation, where students can go and can check with the QR codes different types of fake news examples, and the idea is with some emojis, they'll start like reading them, and they can share with themselves, but also like reflect in an individual way, how do they feel about this fake news, and reflect about that, but also in terms of a community, like in group. So this exercise has led that students and young people can talk together and reflect on what they feel about it. Like, for example, there is fake news about old people that they are out of medicines in a hospital. So, and it has to do with COVID. So then they see that this is a fake news, and then they start reacting and sharing their emotions. But it was very curious because the schools that are already giving this workshop, they told us that many different students share many kinds of different emotions for a same fake news. So the conversations and like the what they were talking about in these sessions were very rich in terms of understanding why they feel like this and how can they manage. So these are like the two activities of module E. And yeah, I wanted to share also some pictures of some of these are students from Catalonia that they already finished 5 modules. They were like really enthusiastic and really motivated, and they did all modules. And yeah, that's it's a little bit a short summary, 10 minutes about what is module E. And well, if you have any questions or anything you want to ask, I'm here.
Thanks, Claudia. Indeed, anybody got any questions? Maybe you stop sharing if you don't mind, Claudia. Thank you, that's great. Anybody got any questions or anything they'd like to put to you? Claudia, I was just wondering, they look like older students. What age have you been piloting it with in Catalonia? What age groups?
No, we were, this was the only group, these pictures were the only group of students that were targeted a little bit older. This was, I don't know if you remember that one school asked us if they could give this workshop to students from 16, 17 years old. And then we did like an exception. Okay. From our project point of view, but what some of the feedback that we got is that for students from 16 and 17 years old, all content was really good. So it was not like too easy, and it was very constructive. So yeah,
good. Yeah, it's good to hear. We'll ask all of our colleagues who have been making modules to maybe switch their cameras on and join me for a discussion, if you wouldn't mind, just for a few minutes. Good to see Patricia, Anne, great, Chloe, Claudia and Liedewij, because I was going to, while we're waiting just to see if anyone has any questions, as we said, the materials are fully available. Test them out, try them out. We'd love to get your feedback. It's really important for us to know how they're doing. And of course, there will be final versions available at the end of the project, probably in, I suppose, Liedewij, when do we say March? We'll be able to have final versions available. Your mic's off. Your mic's off. Liedewij. Thanks.
Yeah, according to the current planning, that's the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
In March.
Yeah. March, exactly. So we'll be doing what we call multiplier events, where we'll be sharing the resources as much as we can. But we'd love to hear from people about how they're getting on with them. No, I'd just like to ask you all. I mean, because you've all had experience now of running workshops with teachers and with trainers, and we do have to say this project is also very much aimed at librarians as well. So we have these 2 target groups, librarians and teachers, and I'd love to hear from you, or to hear you sharing what the feedback was from the teachers and librarians. How comfortable are they in delivering these kinds of workshops with students of that age? Do they need much support? Do they need much training? Patricia, maybe I can ask you. You've done several workshops with people. How do they react?
Well, I didn't do the workshop. Yeah, you know, I did the training with the modules with the teachers. And did as well. Yes, what we heard, the feedback we got is that they said we need the knowledge. Without the knowledge that we gave them, and without the practicing we did, it was kind of hard. So I'm not sure if that was your question.
Challenging, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the topic is more difficult than you might expect, and also because it also needs a broader knowledge on media itself. So that's why we hope with the manual that it will help you through the lessons.
Make it a bit easier. Yeah.
Of course, if you're from the Netherlands, you can also always get in touch with us if you need more guidance or more.
Yeah. Anne, anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree.
Yeah. Claudia, what about you? What was your experience of working with teachers and librarians? Were they confident? Were they ready to use the materials? Did they need much hand-holding, much support? Switch your mic on. Claudia? There we are, yeah.
Sorry, Sally, I lost you for some minutes.
Not to worry.
Could you
It was
please?
Happily, yeah, and I'll come back to Chloe as well too for her reaction. I was just curious to know, because I think for everybody it's a bit of a challenge insofar as the materials, in a way, they're not standalone by any manner of means. They have to be led by a librarian or a teacher. And I was just wondering how difficult or how challenging did the teachers and librarians in Catalonia find this? When you did workshops with them, are they open to the use of materials like this, or how do they manage? Any feedback on that?
Yes. Well, first of all, they were like very impressed and very like they received very in a positive way all the materials that we gave, because for them it was very easy like to adapt their curriculum and introduce those materials into the classroom. So they were a little bit worried in the sense of having like a knowledgeable, how do you say that?
Knowledgeable, difficult word, yeah.
Basis,
knowledgeable.
Yes. Yeah. Basis of references. So they wanted to have like more references.
More references they could use,
of
yeah.
all the materials and references. So well, we shared like all the first the investigation part that we did, and all those references. That was for them that was very important, and they also, it was also a challenge because at the beginning they didn't saw like the link between how libraries and school could give these trainings together. So at the beginning it was a little bit abstract, but we tried to let them know that such a tandem would be very rich, because also libraries has a lot to do with information, with media literacy, and it has a bigger role rather than being just like the traditional library.
Stuffy old library.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So why not like join forces and bring students also to the library? So we also had some extra examples of these trainings that they wanted to be held on those libraries, so they could use like the resources for searching information, the Bibliotheek, and also some other resources that are available in a library.
Yeah. Sorry, Claudia, I think you're coming and going a little bit. I think we've a little bit of a connection problem. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I was also going to say, if we have librarians joining us, please feel free to comment or join in, because of course across Europe you see a difference. In the Netherlands you have this notion of school librarians still, whereas in Flanders we don't have that, and we don't have that in Spain either. So of course it differs very much, but there are huge opportunities for librarians to become involved as well. Marlene, I see that you're putting in some comments about the reactions as well, and you were very involved, I know, in the workshops And you're saying that one of the issues that they were facing, lessons cost
So
more time.
it was also.
Oops, sorry, Claudia. We have a bit of a sound problem. I think it's your end, not my end. We have you coming and going a little.
Also, like,
we've lost her. Okay, she'll be back in a moment, I'm sure. Marlene, do you want to switch on your mic and tell us what the reaction was from the workshops that you were involved with? From teachers and librarians? Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, the teachers and the librarians took part of the training were very happy that they get such a good training and that they were involved in the material and they get a lot of background information about disinformation and young pupils. They are starting to give the building blocks right now in the schools, and one of the feedback that we gave was that it costs more time than just 1 hour of a lesson. So you need more educational time to give the modules. We also have a school and a librarian who have special needs. There are students in, I don't know what the English word is, stoornis in het autistisch spectrum.
Indeed, the spectrum, the autistic spectrum.
Yeah. And the feedback that we get from the teacher and the librarian is that you need more specific in what the target is for the pupils to do so. So the materials for this specific group too difficult. So that's what we're gonna rebuild for pupils with special needs.
Work on, yeah. It's go on, sorry, Marlene.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say that I think that's one of the things that we are realizing in the project is actually having separate sheets and guidance for the teachers for using the materials, but in different ways is something that the project can do. Same materials, but different kinds of applications and support materials. And I'd love to hear from Chloé as well, because Chloé, you've also been involved in all the workshops with the librarians and with the teachers. How do they react?
So yes, indeed, on our side, it's slightly different because as Sally said, there is no real relation or work relation between teachers and librarians. So we had actually two different reactions. Coming from the teachers, I would say that they were all enthusiastic, really happy. First thing, it's because it's ready material, so they can use it in the class. The only thing is, as Marlene said, there's a lack of time because, it might be longer than it might go over an hour, and it's maybe a bit difficult with the schedule of the teachers. So that's one thing. And for the librarians, contrary, they have more time. They can spread the activity, for example, throughout a couple of hours. But librarians lack maybe of a knowledge of concepts about media literacy. And I think that's what they were scared of. So I think, there is two tendencies here. But overall, all of them were really happy. And it's also being implemented in Belgium. And I think working quite well. But indeed, I would say the two challenges are going over the hour for teachers and maybe also the difficulty level for some of the students. And we also had schools joining us with special needs. And indeed, they said that the difficulty might be something that we should revise.
Look, thank you. Anybody got any last questions for us? Please put them straight into the chat. We'd like to check out, we've lost lots of people at the tail end of the session, but we'd love to run a poll, if you don't mind. It's a very quick poll. It's to help for us to have a better idea of you and your interests in what we're doing in Smiles. So if you can stick with this just for a couple of moments, we're going to flash up the poll. In good Zoom technology means, Chloé is pulling it up for us. So we would like to know a couple of things from you. First of all, your country of origin. Short answer, obviously. What is your impression of the modules and the training program? And we know it's a very short introduction to it. What do you think? Any feedback, any thoughts so far? And finally, are you interested in applying using the modules for schools or indeed libraries in your own country? So if you're interested and if you'd like to, first of all, get in touch with us, but also please fill in our poll if you don't mind, because we would like to get feedback from everybody if we can in the session this afternoon. I see 4 people have filled in so far. So this is a call to everybody else to fill in our poll, if you don't mind. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Glika. Thanks, Marlene. Okay, we hope the others are still with us. Helena, Julia, Erica, Ellen, if you can fill in our poll, we'd be deeply grateful. I feel like a used car salesman here at the moment. Anybody want to buy a, yeah, please fill in the poll if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. 7 people. That's great. Getting lots of, getting the countries in. That's great. Interested in applying. This doesn't hold you to it, of course. Chloe, are you going to put up the, no, what you're going to do? Thank you. While people are still filling it in, indeed. Thank you. Let me finish off while you're filling in the poll, just by reminding you that we're very busy in the topic of digital media literacy here in the Media Learning Association. We have had lots of recent articles in our newsletter, which you can sign up for on the website, which we will give you in just a moment. It goes out every month to just over 10,000 email addresses, a lot of them in Europe, but also outside Europe as well. And there's samples of the various different articles that we've had which are relevant. We also want to tell you that our Medea Awards, 15th edition of our Medea Awards is now open for you to make your entry before the 17th of March, which is St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, which is a very good date to remember. So if you can, make sure you have your entry into our Medea Awards before then. And there's the link. And I think there's probably one final slide, is there? Yes, there is. Save the dates. So on the 26th of February, we are running a session like this in collaboration with lie detectors on diversification of support for media literacy activities in Europe. We also have our conference in June, and very soon, next week, we expect to be able to launch all of our other events for spring as well too. We're going to have lots more events like this on the topic of digital and media literacy. So thank you. I see we now have 10 people out of 22 who have responded to our survey, but of course our partners are not included in that. So that maybe helps the numbers a little bit. Anyway, we really hope you found it interesting. Thank you very much. Oops, Julia, you lost the poll. Isn't easy to navigate. Thanks, your colleague Ivana Patricia. Thank you very much. So good to see everybody. Thanks to my colleagues from Smiles. Thanks particularly to Chloe for all of her work, not only running the webinar this time, but also presenting on it, which is kind of not the easiest thing in the world to do. Thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy Christmas. Bye-bye. Have a nice Christmas.